From Mantis and Drax's adventures in Hollywood to a terrified Kevin Bacon and even a special cameo by Kingo, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is filled with Christmas cheer and Easter eggs. Marvel Studios has gotten more creative with its opening credits sequences in Phase 4, especially with music cues. Eternals replaced the typical Marvel theme with something reminiscent of a vintage western. Thor: Love and Thunder put a power ballad spin on it. But Marvel Studios' first ever special presentation, the Halloween special Werewolf by Night, made the most significant changes to the status quo with its new title graphic. Its black and white claw slashes and its screams and howls. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special continues this emerging tradition with its Christmas-themed opener. As the Pogues' Christmas song Fairy Tale of New York plays, the usual comic graphics of Marvel superheroes are interspersed with images of Christmas trees, garlands, kids ice skating, and of course a big guy himself, Santa Claus. While the Werewolf by Night opener ends with some black and white flashes of lightning, the intro of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special ends with the words Marvel Studios lit up in red and green Christmas lights. These cheeky alterations aren't just a nod to the season. Santa is actually part of Marvel Comics canon. On the subject of music choices, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special features 2 live performances by professional musicians. First up, alternative country band Old 97s are decked out in holiday attire. They've been transformed into 4 different alien species, all of whom are playing their Earth instruments for the first time. They do this as they try to write a new song and historical document about human Christmas.
Everything I know about Christmas, I learned from Rockin, who learned from Cosmo, who learned from Kraglin, who learned from you.
That new song, I Don't Know What Christmas Is, But Christmas Time Is Here, is full of hilarious misinterpretations of Christmas stories and symbols. For example, the alien band thinks that if children misbehave, Santa puts dung in their socks, as opposed to coal in their stockings, which a frustrated Peter Quill insists isn't part of the lore at all. Later, Kevin Bacon joins the Old 97s to perform one of the group's pre-existing holiday numbers. Here it is Christmas time. Bacon isn't just a movie star and the subject of the game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. He's also a member of the band The Bacon Brothers alongside his sibling Michael. The Bacon Brothers play a similar style of country folk rock music to the Old 97s. So when this fictionalized version of the actor chooses to stay of his own volition to celebrate the holidays on Nowhere, he picks up a guitar and fits right in with the alien entertainment. The holiday special soundtrack includes some other fun auditory Easter eggs too, like the Strokes' Julian Casablancas rendition of the Saturday Night Live Christmas song I Wish It Was Christmas Today. Writer and director James Gunn said that the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special will fill in some important narrative gaps and prepare fans for Volume 3, which is scheduled to premiere in May of 2023. Those appear to be these 2 new facts. The Guardians are the proud new owners of Nowhere, and Mantis is Peter Quill's half-sister. Let's start with Nowhere. Viewers might not realize that this is where they are when the special begins, but Nebula tosses off a line in which she explains that they've purchased a world that was once a celestial skull from the Collector. We also see Nowhere in the background as Mantis and Drax fly away. This confirms that Tanalia Tavan is still alive, and strongly implies that Nowhere will be at least a partial setting of Volume 3. By the looks of it, the Guardians have done a commendable job of rehabilitating the one-time mining colony and outpost into a tight-knit community that's beginning to thrive again. As for Mantis, she's afraid to tell Peter the truth about their relationship because she suspects it might remind him of his awful father, Ego, and his mother's death at Ego's hand. Of course, Peter is thrilled to have someone he can call family, but it remains to be seen how their kinship will impact the Guardians going forward. News broke that Maria Bakalova had been cast in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 shortly after her star-making performance in the second Borat movie, though nobody knew in what capacity. While she's expected to play a much larger role in the film, she has a fun cameo-sized role in 2 scenes of the holiday special as a new voice of Cosmo the Space Dog. Cosmo has appeared in the MCU before in Guardians of the Galaxy, where the dog is behind glass as part of the Collector's collection. Cosmo also appears in the end credits of Volume 2 and What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord. The character originated in the comics, where he's male and part of the Russian space program. The dog was based on a real canine space explorer, who also happened to be female. With Bulgarian comedian and actor Bakalova's casting, Cosmo has been gender-swapped, retroactively rendering her female in her previous MCU appearances, but presumably she retains the same backstory. The already species-diverse Guardians of the Galaxy can only get more delightfully absurd with the addition of the uproariously funny Bakalova as Cosmo the space dog. Sending Mantis and Drax to Hollywood created a perfect opportunity for James Gunn and company to have fun at their own industry's expense. The two most socially inept Guardians walk confidently down Hollywood Boulevard in their search for the hero Kevin Bacon, but they pause in front of the famous TCL Chinese Theater. In a fun Easter egg, the actors who play the two Guardians have put their real handprints and signatures in the concrete just to the right of where Mantis and Drax are standing during their photo session. Instead of Chris Evans or Scarlett Johansson in their Captain America or Black Widow suits, we see people in Spirit Halloween-quality Avengers costumes posing for pictures with tourists. Besides Cap and Natasha, there's an Ant-Man, a Captain Marvel, a Thor, and a Jack Sparrow for good measure. Mantis and Drax mistake the counterfeit Captain America for the real Steve Rogers, which leads to an embarrassing moment. But soon they realize these selfie-happy MCU fans are a money-making opportunity, and they gladly snap some group pics before continuing their quest for the best Christmas present ever. If you look closely at one banner in particular near Hollywood Boulevard, it advertises Kingo's latest project. In our world, we might all be watching the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, but in the world of the MCU, the public is getting Kingo's Christmas. A large vertical billboard marketing the Actor/Eternal special can be seen on the side of a building before Mantis and Drax enter the bar. Kingo, played by Kumail Nanjiani, is an immortal being. But in Eternals, he's biding his time on Earth as a celebrity who keeps reinventing himself as his own son or grandson, so as not to arouse suspicion about his eternal youth. The MCU's version of Kingo really enjoys being a celebrity. He also fits Mantis, Drax, and Nebula's impression of actors as self-absorbed fame chasers who aren't heroes.
He's an actor! He's never actually saved anyone.
But actors are repugnant!
I know.
This is because Kingo doesn't show up to help the rest of the Eternals in the climax of that film. Another Easter egg that works as a multi-layered joke with multiple meanings is the inclusion of celebrity star maps. When a drunk Mantis and Drax come to a dead end in their hunt for Kevin Bacon, the owner of a souvenir shop overhears their conversation and offers the alien duo a map of the stars. These maps are big business in Hollywood, though they're not always reliable. So the idea that Mantis and Drax could use one to find Kevin Bacon's house is a joke in and of itself. Since she lost her money, Mantis deploys her powers to steal the map and the rest of the cash in the woman's fanny pack. A graphic appears on screen that purports to show the locations of the residence of a handful of celebrities. There's Queen Latifah, John Cena, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a photo of a young Mark-Paul Gosselaar from his Saved by the Bell days. Once Mantis and Drax get to Kevin Bacon's house, the house number 1988 is a reference to the year Peter Quill was taken into space by Yondu. Star Maps is also a sort of double entendre, since the Guardians of the Galaxy exist in space and frequently travel between planets using maps of various star systems. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies largely take place in space, and many scenes take place aboard spaceships. That means there are tons of vehicles in the Guardians movies, and most of them have pretty innovative and recognizable designs, as well as clever names. Peter Quill started with the Milano, named after 80s and 90s TV star Alyssa Milano. He upgraded to the Benatar, named for singer Pat Benatar, which can be seen in Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Thor Love and Thunder. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special introduces the Guardians' newest ship, the Bowie, named after rock icon David Bowie. Star-Lord commands his crew to get Kevin Bacon aboard the Bowie and fly him safely back to Earth, so that they're not on the hook for human trafficking anymore. But once in the driver and passenger seats of the spaceship, Kraglin and Kevin Bacon have a heart-to-heart. Kevin decides to stay a little longer to teach everyone on Nowhere the meaning of Christmas. The Bowie first appeared in the comics in 2019, so the holiday special is simply making the ship officially part of the MCU's canon. Once everyone starts exchanging gifts, the Easter eggs in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special get even wittier and more self-referential. Nebula, who isn't exactly known for being warm and fuzzy, gives Rocket a sizable rectangular box. He opens it to discover a metal appendage. "Bucky's arm?" he asks, to which Nebula says, "Merry Christmas." She doesn't want to acknowledge it, but this is an incredibly thoughtful gift, not to mention an expensive one. Bucky's most recent arm was made out of vibranium. In Avengers Infinity War, Bucky and Rocket fight side by side. At one point, the former lifts the latter into the air, and they take out their surrounding enemies with a circular barrage of gunfire. Afterward, Rocket tries to negotiate a price for Bucky's gun and his arm.
How much for the gun?
Not for sale.
Okay, how much for the arm?
This callback to Infinity War also calls back to the first Guardians movie. In it, Rocket instructs the newly banded Guardians to steal a prosthetic leg in their attempt to break out of prison. When it comes time to put their plan into action, he reveals that he didn't need the leg. He just thought it would be funny. An older teenage Groot carves little wooden dioramas for all of his friends in the Guardians holiday special. He hands out the wrapped boxes, and each member of the Guardians opens theirs. Mantis' diorama depicts the beginning of the live-action part of the special when the Guardians were standing on a balcony talking about how Yondu ruined Christmas. Peter Quill gets a carving of Mantis and Drax chasing a terrified Kevin Bacon down the street. Drax receives a miniature version of himself flipping over a police car. Nebula's scene recreates the moment everyone gave Kevin Bacon, still under Mantis' control, to Peter Quill as a gift. In other words, the presents Groot has given his friends tell the story of the holiday special. That leaves Kraglin, who opens his box last. For him, Groot has carved a small Kraglin, opening an even smaller Kraglin, opening an even smaller Kraglin. The Guardians of the Galaxy films have given the MCU some of its weirdest supporting and featured characters, and the wackiest might be Taserface. This numbskulled and aggressive space pirate has been in the comics since 1990, but he made his MCU debut in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when he tried to stage a mutiny and came into conflict with Rocket Raccoon. Rocket repeatedly mocks his name, to which Taserface infamously replies with a full-bodied shout,
"It's metaphorical!"
Taserface didn't make it out of that film alive, but he popped up in What If, where in an alternate reality, he and Kraglin pick up T'Challa instead of Peter Quill. We don't see an animated Taserface in the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, but the character still gets a shout-out. As Yondu goes through the garbage can of presents and decorations that he destroyed and threw away in a fit of anti-Christmas rage, we can see that one package has been designated for Taserface. The sloppy handwriting is likely a clue that young Peter remembered Taserface and got the angry Ravager something special.